Welcome back, and thank you for joining me on the How platform. This is the How platform where we share lessons about faith, lifestyle, and purposeful living. I want to say a special thank you to all the people that have been sharing these videos, all the people that have been liking it, and to all our new subscribers. You're very welcome. So, for the past couple of weeks, we've been touching on the principles that guide a successful life. And the last time we talked about communication, and we focus on the act of asking questions. The act of asking questions. So it's been a journey. It's been a summer 2023 journey, and I have learned, and I hope these videos are impacting you in a positive way. That's my prayer, that following all the lessons will continue to have a positive impact in every area of your life. So in this video today, I'm going to build on communication, because when I started the conversation last time, I talked about the act of asking questions. So leaders ask good questions. They ask themselves good questions, and they know how to ask others good questions. But today I'm going to extend it further and talk about mentors answers difficult questions. Asking questions is very, very important for every of our journey. When Joseph was on his way to finding his brother, there was a man. The man was without a name in the Bible. But that man pointed Joseph to where to find his brothers. And that led him to slavery. That led him to Potiphar's house. That led him to the prison and then to the palace. Difficult questions are very, very hard to answer. And in this video today, I just want to let you know that those are the questions that mentors have to answer for you. So for every mentors that you have in your life, or for every people on this video that are watching, there are times that we have to answer difficult questions. So what I do in the church where I worship, where I serve, is in the children department. I serve in the family ministry, and particularly I focus in the children department. And you can be sure working with children might sometimes be very, very dramatic, because these children, they have their own personality, and sometimes they bring that personality into the space, especially when they are comfortable with the teachers. And because I don't know, for some reason, they believe, okay, they can always talk to me, which is good. So we've had that kind of rapport that made these kids to be very comfortable asking me questions. And I remember this particular lesson, we were talking about Jesus on the cross, and then so there were two guys that were nailed to the left and the right of Jesus. And I remember Mr. D, one of the kids in my class, asked me, why are the people on both sides of Jesus male? Why are they all male? That was a difficult question. I thought to myself, why are they male? I've never thought about that question before. And then, through the help of the Holy Spirit, I said, sin is not gender specific. Every one of us, either male or female, is capable of sin. And it happened that those people at the side of Jesus are male. And the Holy Spirit also reminded me that there was a prophecy that had gone ahead, that Jesus will be crucified with two male beside him. So there are things that happen in the Bible for our lesson. Like I said, sin is not gender specific. So we have to be prepared in our mind that when it comes to mentoring, leading, asking difficult questions is something that is a very, very important skills to have. Because in the process of asking those questions, it sharpens our thoughts. The questions that we answer help us improve our own thoughts too. We learn and we also sharpen our thoughts. So for everybody that is mentoring, either mentoring your own kids or mentoring people that are looking up to you, knowing how to answer difficult questions is very, very important. And that is what I'm focusing on in this video. And I'm going to use a very, very popular story from John chapter 8. For people of faith, this story is very, very familiar. And for as many people that are not in the line of faith, I just want you to pay attention to the lesson from this story in the act of asking question, the purpose and the position of answering question. The position for answering question. So in John 8, we saw a group of people, they brought a woman to Jesus. He was caught in adultery. Adultery is when a married woman is having an affair with another man who is not married, who is different from her husband. So this woman was caught in that very act. That was what the people that brought him to Jesus said. In the story that I want to tell you today, I just want you to focus on how the thing progresses. Like I said, when it comes to answering question, there is a position for answering question. So when you want to answer question, either in an interview, either maybe in a leadership meeting, or either even in your family setting, when you want to answer question, I want you to pick up some lessons from the way Jesus answered the question in this story in John 8. So they brought this woman to Jesus. She was found in adultery. They pulled her up to stand up in front of Jesus. The position of answering question. As a mentor, the position of answering question involves you bringing some things to the table. It involves you being vulnerable. There is nothing that people are going to learn when you are hiding the truths from the public. So when you are a mentor and people are looking up onto you for answers, they want you to be authentic and be vulnerable. You want to be able to share the days of your struggle as much as you share the days of your win. You want to share the days of your gains as much as the days of your pain. You want to share the days where you panicked because the job has been taken away as much as you share the days when you receive multiple job offers. As a mentor, you want to share the days where there was no sale. Where there was no sale and there was no money to feed the family as much as you share the days of winning that big contracts. You want to share the days where you served in your pain, when you were so sick, but you still went out of your own pain to serve as much as you serve with your own strength. You want to bring all of your personality into the conversation. So when it comes to mentoring and answering questions, being vulnerable is very, very key. Being able to share your pains and your gain with others is very, very important. You know, these days, people want to hide their pains from people. And as a leader, that is robbing the whole humanity of learning from you. Because you will realize that when you don't share your pain with people, you just have a lot of fans. You don't have followers. You have a lot of fans, but you don't have disciples. Because they only know the good aspect of you. They don't know the sacrifice, the diligence, the discipline, the pains, the suffering that brought forth those gains. So when it comes to mentoring, you want to bring all of yourself into that conversation. And the person, like we said in the last video when we were talking about asking good questions, we already covered what the person who is asking the question is bringing to the conversation. They are bringing their authenticity, they are bringing their humility, and they are keeping the mind on their own goals and calling. So as a mentor, what you are bringing first into that conversation is your vulnerability. The second aspect that you are bringing to that conversation is your own humility. Because whichever way you want to think about it, you might think you are ahead of the people you're mentoring, but you are also learning from them. You are also learning in their process of struggle. You are also learning from them. So being able to also be humble enough to understand their own path is very, very key. Humility is very, very key. Another thing that you want to bring into that conversation is your empathy. Because as much as you want to bring all of yourself into the conversation, as much as you want to be humble enough to learn from their pains and from their gains and understand the situation so that you will know how to speak to it, you also want to make sure you are empathic because their story is different. Where they are coming from is different. Their current situation is different. So you don't want to be telling them, this is what I did. I did a lot of marketing. I did a lot of reels. I made sure I'm growing my audience daily. As much as you want to be telling them all you did, it might not totally and completely fit into their own needs. So being empathic and being able to understand where they are coming from and their current situation is very, very important. As a mentor, you are investing in people. And the fact that you are investing in people means that you're going to share in their pains. In fact, there are battles that you're going to fight because you are standing along the side of your mentee to overcome a particular struggle. So when you have mentors, and I'm talking about people whom you are looking up to, mentees now, I'm talking to you. When you have mentors who are standing side by side with you in that struggle and making sure you are moving forward towards your goal, when you have those mentors, don't forget them when you have your gains. Don't forget them when the story becomes very good to narrate. Because whichever way you want to think about it, they paid for that gain. They made some sacrifice into that investment. And that is why you should make sure they also share in the gain. Well, I've digressed a little bit, but I want to go back to that story in John 8 into answering questions, because when mentors have to answer questions, what Jesus did in this John 8 provides a good template for us. So they brought this woman to Jesus. He had been caught in adultery. They brought the woman to Jesus because they wanted to also get Jesus into trouble. They wanted Jesus to judge in a way that it will get him into trouble. So this is a double-edged trouble. That's the way you want to think about it. It's a double-edged trouble. They wanted to make sure the woman is stoned because that is what the custom law says. And they also want to hear the side of Jesus to see how they will use it to get Jesus into trouble. So it's a double-edged trouble. It's a double-edged trouble. Not only for Jesus, but also for the woman. They made the woman stand up so that she can be answering questions. And that's what we see in the court of law. In the court of law, they make people stand up so that, because standing up makes you be able to communicate well. But psychologically, when you're standing up on your feet, people can easily notice when you lie from your feet. So when people want to notice your emotion, by watching your feet, they can notice. When you want to notice whether somebody is engaging with you in a conversation, you want to notice how their feet angle towards you. So if somebody is talking to you and their feet is facing you, that means they are very, very engaged in that conversation. If their feet is turning the 90 degree this way or that way, it might be they are distracted or they are not really into that conversation. So communication is 7% our words and more than 90% our non-verbal. What we are saying with our eyes, what we are saying with our hands, what we are saying with our feet. This is very, very important, because when we want to talk about communication in every aspect, even when we want to talk about communication in marriage, these are very, very important aspects. The way you are using your eyes to communicate, the way you are using your hands to communicate, and your feet. So from the feet, you can know somebody's emotion and whether they are telling lies. Because when somebody is telling lies, their feet could be quivering. So they made this woman stand up. All of them had their stones in their hand. And Jesus, who was teaching before, went down. That's the first thing that you want to notice in that story. The Bible says they made the woman stand up, and then Jesus went on his knees and was writing something on the floor. He was writing something on the floor. And then Jesus was silent. He was just writing something on the floor. And then the people asked again, Jesus, what do you want us to do? This woman was caught in the very act. In the very act means we caught her red-handed. Let me put it in an African way. That's where in Nigeria we say, we caught her red-handed. Jesus looked up and he said, any of you that doesn't have a sin should cast the first stone. And as soon as Jesus finished that statement, the Bible said he continued to write on the floor. Another silence. And he was writing on the floor. When you are on the floor, there are some things that you're going to notice. You're going to notice the feet of the people who were standing around you. Their feet were quivering because all of them knew they were not perfect. And they left one by one by one, and all of them were gone. And the only feet that was remaining standing was the feet of this woman who was caught in adultery. You may think that you have failed in a very, very shameful way. That was the case of this woman. But Jesus stood up for her. Jesus took her place. Jesus took her place. She was the one that was supposed to be on her knees. Jesus took up her place. There are 4 S that I want to pick up from this story when it comes to answering questions. The first S is submission. Submission. Jesus, when they brought that woman to Jesus, Jesus did not start questioning the woman. Jesus submitted to the fact that they put on the table. He acknowledged that, okay, yes, she was caught in the adultery. That is submission. When you are coming to answer question, you want to first submit to the facts. What does the fact tell about that business? What does the fact tell about that health condition? What does the fact says about that career path? As a mentor, you want to submit to the facts. Jesus submitted. Submission is the first S that I see in that story. The second S that I see in that story is substitution. Jesus took the place of that woman. The woman was the one that was supposed to be quivering in shame and on her knees, but she was made to stand up. And Jesus went on his knees and he was taking up the position of this woman. Substitution. And that speaks to what I said about empathy. When you are answering questions as a mentor, you want to put yourself in the shoe of the person who is looking up to you. That is not the time to be bragging. That is not the time to be arrogant or even proud of your past victory. That is the time to put yourself in their shoe. That if my younger self was sitting down in front of me, how will I want to communicate to him or her? Substitution. You take up the place of the person who is asking the question. If my younger self is asking me this question, what are the answers I'm going to give to that person? You want to take up the place of the person who is asking you that question. At some point, even on this platform, we're going to cover how to answer questions during interview. But today, I want to focus on the mentor-mentee answering question relationship. Because you see some mentoring relationship where you don't learn a lot from your mentor because they are hiding their own stories from you. Substitution means you are willing to share. You are taking up their own place and you are willing to share all that you have learned from those people. Yes, it may have cost you to have learned those things, but sharing it is what makes you part of their story. Is what makes you part of their purpose. Even if they don't appreciate you, God in heaven knows that you have invested into their destiny and God knows how to reward you. The third S that we see in this story is the place of silence. At some point in the future, we're going to talk about the place of silence in communication. Silence is communication. When you ask a question or when somebody asks you a question and you're silent and you pause a little to think about that question, that is very, very important. Jesus was silent in this story. He thought about that question. He was writing on the floor. He was silent. They asked him the first time. He continued to write. They asked him the second time. Jesus was silent. Because in your silence, you're going to be able to pay attention to the emotion of the people who are asking you that question. It is very, very important to know when it comes to answering questions, you want to first of all be ready to submit, be humble. The second thing, you want to be ready to substitute, to be able to put yourself in the place of the person who is asking you that question. Don't talk in the third term. You want to be talking that if it's me, this is what I will do. This is what I will do. You want to take the place of the person who is asking you that question. And the third aspect is silence. When you have told your mentor some things, you want to give them time to work on it, to think about it. Mentoring relationship almost feel like you're manipulating people, but you're just manipulating them in a positive way. So you want to also give them that gift of silence. As you are answering that question, you want to be pausing and be following up with other questions. Oh, what is the next step? What if you don't understand even their situation? Make sure you are asking questions. When it comes to answering questions, your submission is very important. When it comes to answering questions, your sacrifice is very, very important. When it comes to answering questions, your substitution and taking the place of the person is very, very important. And when it comes to answering questions, your silence is very, very important. This is just the beginning of the lesson on communication. As you may have noticed, we've just been touching on each of these principles that guide a successful life, starting from clarity to courage to consistency. We've been touching on them. And in the future, we will build on it. We will build on it because when it comes to answering questions, in your substitution and taking the place of the person asking you that question, you are empathic. When it comes to answering questions, in your sacrifice, you are able to be vulnerable. When it comes to answering questions, in your silence, you are able to let them build their muscle. Thank you for joining me on the App platform. This is the App platform.